But if I was to ask you for 3 solid reasons why you cannot come to believe that Christianity, is it like the resurrection? Because you do agree that Christ actually existed, right? Historically?
Oh, no, I do not deny that at all. Even then I was sitting there, man, this just doesn't make sense. Number one, humans are my number one reason that I don't believe in God, because it just doesn't make sense to me. When they're sitting there and like, oh, well, you have to follow this way or it's wrong. Well, this is up for your interpretation of it. You didn't ask enough questions, because you allow any idiot to fucking join your church as long as it's about numbers.
Psychological tactics?
Yeah, the psychological tactics that go along with it. Oh, absolutely. Humans wrote the Bible and, made it their own and,
Well, this is great. Let's touch on that.
Their own political views to it and whatnot.
What about, because I think you're touching on something very good, because a lot of people have trouble with this. Some key points for me to look into. What would you say, hey man, look into this as far as the Bible and how it came together? What would you ask me to look at?
And let's go to the King James.
Okay, King James.
I know he had scholars of the time assist him and everything, but don't tell me they weren't politically motivated to write certain things certain ways. Right?
Politically motivated.
And personal motivation.
So what would you say number 2 would be?
Man, number 2 would just be some of the stories. Was Jonah and the whale. How Jonah was, out and the whale swallowed him. And then, I forget the full story on this, but the guy that was thrown in the den with the lions.
Daniel in the lion's den?
Daniel in the lion's den, that's the one. Here's what you're doing, though. You're asking questions, which is a majority of what people in religions do not do. And that right there shows that you're on a better, or a path of understanding, let's put it that way.
Sure. I think these questions are imperative. Why should we follow blindly? Would you say that the cosmological argument, maybe, like the creation story?
Well, yeah, creation, that doesn't even make any sense whatsoever. Speaking of science, the Big Bang. First off, let's just get this straight. It's a theory. It's not fact. It's just a theory that this is how it all began. Which, to me, makes more sense than a guy in the clouds built everything in 6 days and rested on the 7th. Where the Big Bang Theory is concerned, this is a large percentage of people who question me as an atheist. Well, if something cannot come from nothing, how did the Big Bang happen? How did the 2 atoms find each other in nothingness and, collide? Where did the atoms come from? It's a very good question. I get hit with all the time. And my rebuttal usually is, well, where did your God come from? Well, God always was. Well, if something can't come from nothing, your God doesn't exist.
No, that's great. I wanna look into that. You know what I mean?
You know what? I'm gonna switch it up. One of the hardest things I've ever done in my life was deny God. And they say, oh, if you just read the Bible, you have all the answers. Well, that's not true. But without religion, there is no God. And then again, I found that there is no religion. If there is anything in particular, I would not ever call it a God. I think calling it a God would be insulting.
What do you believe happens when we die?